We'd like to welcome you all here today for the dedication of the new segment of the Fairfield Loop Trail. And to start the dedication ceremony off, I would like to introduce to you Dennis Lewiston. Dennis is the director of the Jefferson County Parks and the director of the Jefferson County Conservation Board. Dennis.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. We welcome you all here today. It was just a short 2 months ago that we had a dedication on our Cedar View Trail, and as of today, people came out and supported that. What is so good about these dedications and this project is that they're all tied into each other. The Cedar View Trail will directly be tied into this segment of trail right here, as well as trails sections already that exist up north of town, and that's why we give it the term the Loop Trail. So it's an exciting project, it's an ongoing project, and the Trail Council should be very commended on the excellent work they have done. My portion of the program is going to be short and brief, and we'll go on to the next speaker. But I wanted to give you a little bit of insight on how some of these projects are afforded, because obviously when you have a structure like this, you know, there's some money involved. And we were fortunate to have in our community Karl and Mary Zillman, longtime members of the community, and they were contributed to our natural resources and our recreation in the county in many different ways. Clear back in the 70s, Karl Zillman, who was a board member of the Jefferson County Conservation Board, donated artifact collection to our nature center, and that was the first of many donations that he and Mary did, and the artifact collection is on display in our nature center out in Jefferson County Park as we speak. Then, if that wasn't enough, Karl and Mary donated well over $30,000 to the Greater Jefferson County Foundation to sponsor 2 students for a scholarship every year, and these students are selected on their interest in conservation and their curriculum in a natural resource field. So that's an ongoing, perpetual thing that the Zillmans have left behind. In addition to that, Karl and Mary also donated 46 acres of land to the Conservation Board, now known as Zillman's Hickory Hills, which is about 4 or 5 miles southeast of town on the Glasgow Road. And it's a very beautiful area, and if you haven't visited that, I encourage you to do that. Karl also made a major contribution to the Conservation Board, a monetary contribution for work to be done in the future on different projects. In his estate, he left money to the Greater Jefferson County Foundation earmarked for the Conservation Board, so we thank him for that. And last but not least, Karl left a sizable amount of money to the Fairfield Lions Club, and that's brings me to why we're standing here today. The Lions Club decided that since Karl and Mary had such an interest in outdoor recreation and conservation, that what a perfect way to spend that money is to build a bridge like this over Crow Creek. And here today we stand on this structure, which is a beautiful wooden structure on a beautiful laid out trail. So we thank the Zillmans for their contributions throughout the years, and these contributions will be benefited by the citizens of this county for years to come. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Dave and Sally. Okay. Are they coming up and speak? Okay, I didn't know exactly the program. At this time, Dave and Sally Neff, who is responsible for us being standing here on this property will come up and have a few words of wisdom. So Dave and Sally.
Wisdom.
Words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Okay.
Pressure's on now.
Thank you very much for coming out. The beautiful weather has been ordered, and for all those that helped downtown, the street sweepers, Dave, and your beautification committee, there was a good turnout down there. So it's an active morning for the city and the community. I was asked to speak a little bit about Lamson Woods, the property directly to the south of where we're standing right now, and give you a little bit of background as to where it's been and how you can enjoy it. The Iowa Board of Conservation was formed in 1917. This was the precursor to the state DNR, which we now enjoy and are able to work with. In 1965, the State Preserve Act was formed. It was defined and established a system for the entire state of Iowa so that pieces of property like this could be preserved in perpetuity for everyone coming, our kids, our grandkids, and everyone else that comes to Iowa. There are 5 different categories of preserves. You have biological preserves, and there are 66 of those in the state. Geological preserves, there are 46. 8 historical, 17 archaeological, and they're all pretty much scenic. There are a total of 90 preserves in the entire state of Iowa at this time. The size, they can vary from 1 acre. There's a Pisgah cemetery and a fish trap location up to 845 acres at Indian Bluffs, which is another location in the state. Total acreage in the state preserve, 9,300 acres, and we're fortunate to have this one right close by so people can enjoy it. Ownership, 70%. There are 2 different entities, the DNR and the Nature Conservancy own 70%, but 18 of them are involved with county conservation boards, as Dennis and our board represents here. City of Fairfield is the only city in the state to have 2 state preserves under their jurisdiction. Fairfield Park and Recreation is responsible for this preserve, as well as Wood Thrush Preserve, which is east of town about 6 miles and 2 miles south. This information was provided through a book, the information from the Iowa State Preserves by Herzberger and Pearson. Lamson Woods, let's get specific now. Where did this come from? How long has the city of Fairfield had it? 1932, in fact, April 22nd of 1932. It was in an estate that was administered by Charles C. Clark and R.D. Hunt. The estate was Carrie L. Ross, and that's when the city had the responsibility for it as a park. And then Lamson Woods became a state preserve 1979 or 1980. Spence McKinney was Park and Rec director at that time. Some of you may remember that name. And we were fortunate enough to have an involvement. Our oldest daughter, Lori Neff Swanson, now lives in Des Moines, but she was in 4th grade at that time and was chairman of the Park and Recreation Board at that point. We went to Des Moines and watched Governor Ray sign in the proclamation. So we've got a sort of a long-term interest in where this has been, and this just seemed a natural adjunct to go forward from there. We're very fortunate with the Conservation Board and all the parks that they cover, but the city has 12 different parks. And a lot of times people don't realize these, but of course Central Park and Chautauqua are the 2 that people see. O.B. Nelson is more in the physical activity area. Heritage Park, Waterworks, Little League Park, Forest Park, Howard Park, Wilson Park, Southwood Park, Lamson Woods, and Wood Thrush are 12 that the City of Fairfield Park and Recreation is responsible for. The other thanks I'd like to give at this point, and I think most of you came in this way, you saw the trees that were planted along the trail and the design from there. This is in cooperation with the Fairfield Tree Enhancement Committee. Alliant Utilities has funded for the last 11, 12 years. We've had close to $60,000 or $70,000 that has come in from outside grants, Meritor, Farm Bureau, Greater Jefferson County Foundation. And the last 3 years, the DNR has had $1 million more by 2004, a funding mechanism. So we've had 2 planting sessions over here. And this last year, with the DNR money and other local matching money, volunteer labor combined was over $11,000 worth of materials that were installed at 6 different locations in the city. So we feel with that, it'll become a nice location for people to picnic, to come through, and to walk along. So thank you for coming out. Lamson Woods is a gem, and we're fortunate to have accessibility for our entire community.
Ron asked me if I'd say a little bit about the educational aspect of this particular part of the trail and also our involvement with it. Many of you know I'm a born and bred Fairfielder. I was raised here, I was educated here, chose to make my home here and raise my own family here. And anything that can ever happen to make this town and this county a better place for people and families to live is something that I'm going to support. Some of you know I'm involved with another little project right now, but I won't say anything about that right now. I'd like to commend two groups and also two individuals today. First of all, the Jefferson County Conservation Board for their foresight and for their long-term planning and long-term visions. Very, very dedicated people who've served on that board for years and years and years. And in particular, I want to commend them for however many years ago it was when they brought Therese Comiskey to Fairfield as our naturalist. She has impacted the lives of literally hundreds, probably thousands of young people, and has instilled in them a much greater appreciation for their environment and for what they can do to preserve it. She's also impacted quite a few adults. You can't be around her for more than about 5 minutes without changing your attitude about something. I was privileged last night to be part of a group that she was presenting a program to, and I learned about 5 or 6 things in one evening, and that just, you can't be around her without learning. It's probably because of her that I personally became aware of the importance of wetlands to our whole system, the whole ecological system. From the time that the Neff family moved to our home back up that way on Glasgow Road 17 years ago, this piece of ground right here wanted to be a wetland. Every year there was water standing in here with soybeans trying to grow in it or corn trying to grow in it, and it just wasn't working very well. And we had the opportunity to obtain the property, and just about that time, I believe it was Terry Klein we were talking to, who said, you know, I think maybe the trail could go through there, and that's how it all started. And by working with that board and with the Trails Council and with DOT, we were able to achieve what you see and what I hope you'll take a walk on today. And we hope that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right now it'll be filled with yellow and purple color in the fall and all the other gorgeous things that'll happen the rest of the year. And the other group, of course, that I want to commend is the Trails Council for their perseverance and their unfailing dedication to what they've set out to do. We already have beautiful chunks of trail to walk on or ride on. And someday, probably not in the too distant future, we'll have a whole loop to walk around. If you want to go 17 miles, go for it. The other individual I want to commend, and she's going to be surprised, is the newest member of the Jefferson County Conservation Board, who is my former colleague, Kathy Tollenier. And she's another one of those people that is invaluable in our community. And I'm so glad they made her a member of the board, because she's going to carry on everything that Therese has taught us. So I welcome you to this little chunk of trail, and from now on, it's yours.
Actually, I want to stay up here for a second. Dave and Sally, just wanted to thank you both for being so incredibly community-minded and always supportive of everything in Fairfield and Jefferson County. So we wanted to give you a little gift on behalf of the Trails Council, and I'm going to show it to the camera and show it to Dave and Sally. It's an aerial photo of the wetland, and we just thought it was the appropriate gift for you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Exactly. With the old sewer.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's beautiful, the color shows. Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very much.
You're welcome. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Kent Rice, whose work has been actually extraordinary and invaluable for the Trails Council over the last 4 or 5 years. Kent.
Thanks, Ron. Well, it is a pretty good pleasure to be up here. The bridge has really been an exciting thing for me. I wasn't any part of the design of that bridge, but certainly became a big part of the foreman of constructing it, and that was a little different situation than I'm usually in, where I'm usually the designer and then trying to get it to somebody to build it like the way I want it designed. In this case, I was trying to build something that somebody else designed. It's a real pleasure, and we're pretty proud of what we've done, and I hope everyone else is proud of it too, because the thing that we really enjoy as a Trails Council is to see users out there, and that's what really gives us a thrill, and I hope it gives you guys a thrill out there. They're using it.
We'll move on to the ribbon cutting, and I've got a list of people that are involved in the project, and it's not too long, but I'll get through it here. And I'm going to try to do it sort of in order of who was involved first with the project, and then towards all the way to where we are today. So I might start out with John Pearson with DNR, who was, and I don't know if he's represented here, probably not, but if he is, he could come forward. And John is really important because of this being a woodland preserve. Just the question of whether we could build anything in there, we had to take a couple trees down. We certainly had to get his permission to do that, and that was a challenge, and we appreciate that he cooperated with that. After that came Bill Matkin, if Bill would want to come forward. He was the next one onto the scene. You could come on forward then, Bill. Ron, do you want him to try to step on this side of the...
Yeah, I guess so.
If you can duck under the ribbon, if Bill can duck under there, anybody should be able to, as tall as he is. So.
He's going to want to keep him on the other side. For filming.
Okay, all right. Bill did the design work. We've certainly cussed Bill a number of times, as it just seemed a whole lot tougher and stronger than what it needed to be. But now when I see 75 or 50 people standing out there, we're pretty glad with the way it's built and pretty proud and feel like it's going to stay there for a long time. Once we had a design done, the Lions Club certainly stepped forward, and maybe Randy Cooksey is representing the Lions. Would that be right? Came forward with a good chunk of money, paid I think at least 90%, if not more than that, the cost of the materials for the bridge, and so we surely appreciate the Lions. Greg Voorhees with Schaus Voorhees. The first initial part of the bridge across Crow Creek has some steel work with it, and Schaus Voorhees fabricated and painted and built that steel work and set it in place for us. Jeff Abbey with Fairfield Lumber supplied all the lumber and gave us a good discount on those materials. Mike Carlson, geez, it's been like 2 years ago since we started on the bridge. Is Mike here?
Yeah.
He is? No. I didn't think so. Mike donated a skid steer loader to help drill the initial holes for the piers, for the wooden piers, and then Larry Deers ran that skid steer loader. I don't believe Larry is here either. And Fairfield Ready Mix donated the concrete that went into the piers, backfilling the 6x6s, also the concrete on each end. There's a concrete abutment on each end, a trench there. Ron Blair had, well, he's one of the little guys in the group, but he showed up occasionally and did help us out once in a while. Ron has certainly done the bulk of the work to organize everyone, to keep the Trails Council going, to raise the funds, just any part of the project you want to mention. Ron is right there every bit of the way. Greater Jefferson County Foundation is a representative from them. Dave certainly is, Dave Neff, or any others that would be represented. They supplied some funds for the bridge project as well. Doug Adams with MUM Woodworking, as we get done with the bridge and then start thinking about the amenities that go with it. The kiosk that's out at the beginning of the trail there at the parking lot at Lamson Woods. Bill Wynn was the contractor that built that first portion that has a little S-curve into it. Kent Whitney provided the stone that has the memorial that the Lions donated there. Judy Cox, I saw her here, Judy and Reggie both, for the bench that's back there at the beginning of the trail. Thanks, Judy, appreciate it. That's a good addition to the bridge. Bill Pollock was actually constructed that bench and had a big part in a lot of construction of the rest of the things too, the gates out at that end of the project. Bill Rathbun and Michael Fergard, is that how you pronounce that? The Sack and Fox Mineral Club, the other kiosk that's right there at the parking lot that has the big stone in it, that's a glacial stone. I think he said originated in Canada and was moved down to like Cedar Rapids area by glacier and then brought down, by trailer to get on down to here. That's a group that really just came forward without us doing a lot of work to bring them in, and really appreciate them. That's been a a dandy addition to the parking lot and the trail as a whole. Terry Klein was big with Trees Forever and helped do the planning for the tree planting around in the parking lot in the open area there, and was certainly there to plant all those trees. John Meyer, representing the Lutheran Club. They built the split rail fence there at the parking lot. Jim Meyer, he's sort of behind the scenes. I don't know if Jim's here. I've never even met Jim, I don't believe. Yes, he was to a Trails Council meeting. But he developed the website. And if you've ever been on to look at that website for the Trails Council, it's a real dandy website. It has nice pictures of the whole trail system, and then of course links to the rest of Fairfield and Jefferson County, so to spread the news out as far as we can. And then sort of shift into the government organizations that have helped 100% of the way. We've had nothing but support the whole way, and I know that not all projects go with 100% of government support. Sometimes there is some controversy, but we really haven't seen that, and so that's really been appreciated and really helps things go along. I'm going to start with Tom Neenan, who was the chairman of the Iowa Trails Council. Bob Rasmussen was the former mayor. I don't think Bob's here today. Bob Phipps, I saw Bob out here someplace representing FEDA or the chamber. Is Bob here? Where did he go?
He was here but had to leave.
Oh, okay. All righty. Dave Reef representing FEDA. Ed Malloy, thank you for being the mayor now and your help the whole time through. Sounds like the street sweepers ball was successful, and just another part of everything going on. John Brown, Mike Pesh representing the Board of Supervisors. Also, Dick Simmons is here representing the Board of Supervisors, if you could both come forward. Dennis Lewiston, mentioned him earlier and spoke earlier, County Conservation Board. Ron Myers. Ron is limping around here somewheres, I think. Can you make your way up here? Ron hurt his back recently, but he's kind of bent over, but he'll get up here. I'm sure he can run a scissors still. Tom and Tim McMahon. The actual supporters, again, that has helped, been out there raising quite a bit of money. Tom and Tim McMahon and Warren Berman. Dr. Bill Bauman is here somewheres. A neighbor, Bill, if you'd want to come forward. Sometimes building trails in a neighbor's front yard is not the thing that neighbors like. The old NIMBY story, not in my backyard. But Bill has not only been a supporter of it and helpful, but he's been here several times out helping build the bridge and the gazebo, and now I think he's using the trail daily, and down to probably under 9 minutes anyway of running back and forth, so taking care of himself. Dr. Larry Nash, where's he? Larry has been just a terrific carpenter. He's done the difficult work of the corners, working out those little areas. He's done a lot of work on the gazebo, the Sack and Fox gazebo he built himself. And then the most recent thing he's done has been the fighter against the vandals. So every time there's some vandalism, which there has been some of the glass has been broken out of the kiosk, and Larry's been right there to fix that back again. And hopefully he can win that game and stay ahead of the vandals. So I guess that puts them on the list next. Are the vandals here? We'd like them to come forward, and we have a scissors to use towards them, so yeah. Then I guess the last one on the list is Pam Kraft and Barry Dodd, Park and Rec Department. If they're here because the project's being handed over to them to take care of, and they've been doing a dandy job with the portions of the trail that built, and I assume they'll continue to do the same. So everybody that has a scissors, move forward. Is there anybody I left out that I should have mentioned? We do have another ribbon cutting for the trail portion, so that'll cover DOT people, that type of thing. Okay, I'll get Bill over there. Okay, are you all ready? We're gonna cut on 3. 1, 2, 3. Yay!
Yeah, anybody wants to keep a piece of ribbon?
Memorial ribbon. Ron, do we just move over to the next area then? I think if you want to walk on up here, we got another ribbon cutting for this portion of the trail. Okay, so that was a ribbon cutting for the bridge itself, and the bridge wouldn't have not much use without the next section of the trail, which runs from here out to Glasgow Road, which is not quite a half a mile, about 2,000 feet. This was a project that actually DOT had a big part of, as well as the Neffs having a big part. This is a wetland that's created as what's called a mitigation site. I believe Pete, you could correct me, but I believe this was a mitigation site for a project near Sigourney, Highway 149. So as a reconstructed Highway 149, there were some wetlands that they had to destroy in that project. To compensate for those wetlands, then they create additional wetlands here. So I think there's like 5 acres of wetlands, plus some of the upland area becomes planted with native grasses for upland habitat. So that all becomes part of a replacement project. And then Trails Council and several different organizations became involved to develop the whole thing. As it being a replacement project, the Corps of Engineers becomes involved. The Natural Resources Conservation Service was actual designers of the dike and the wetland. It has two structures. There's one, if you move into the trees there's a gated structure so they can control the water level. And then there's another one about halfway up that can in case Crow Creek rises, then they can allow water to come into the dike area from Crow Creek itself. Obviously, they can let water out of there. Only God can control letting water back in again. So, let's see. So it's those two involved. Since they're close to Crow Creek, that involves Iowa Department of Natural Resources. So we thought the bridge was going to end about 150 foot back there, and you might recall that the dike was there at one time. When DNR looked at that, they were concerned that that was going to create additional flooding on the other side of the creek, and so wanted to move the dike over here, and that was done. And then the bridge got extended, which actually adds quite a bit of a improvement in aesthetics, I think, to the bridge as it turned out. Corps of Engineers was involved, FEMA was involved, several organizations. That's probably enough of that babbling. Let me go on to, obviously, Dave and Sally Neff need to come forward for this. This is their property, so if they could come forward. Pete Tollinaire, representing DOT, if he would come forward. DOT was required to create the wetland, but they weren't required to grade it with this wide of a top width for a trail, and they weren't required to rock it for a mitigation project. So they actually contributed quite a few things beyond what their minimum requirements were, and that worked out very well for the community and very much appreciated. Terry Abbott was with DOT. She's out of the office in Ames, I believe, and she was responsible for the vegetation plantings, identifying what seeds should be put down. It's going to take a few years for those things to develop, and it's going to take some knowledgeable people to be able to even recognize those items. But if you get a chance, Sally Neff's probably going to know them, as she'll work with Therese, and Therese Kaminsky is going to know them. If you ever see Terry Abbott, you could talk to her about what crops are growing out there. Doug Morningstar, I don't believe Doug is here, but he was with NRCS, the designer of the dike. For Teresa Kaminsky and Kathy Tollinaire, Kathy could come forward too, as their contributions towards the whole plantings and the whole educational part of the situation. Joe and Charlie Adam, they actually dug the holes for the piers along this section of it. Charlie Matson did the trench work for the concrete on the ends of the bridge, which became part of this project out here. Then Larry Klein did the earthwork to build the ramps into the bridge there. Cole Construction was the contractor that built the dike, and we've had really good cooperation from them as being able to come in and do some work and then move the dike and then cooperate as to when we're going to get the bridge done. So again, that's not always easy to get cooperation from a contractor because they're moving big equipment in and out, but they did a real nice job for us. I guess that's all on that list. So if those people could come forward, we'll cut another ribbon. Are you ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we've got one little ceremony, and that's in the gazebo, and then there'll be some refreshments right after that.
Okay. We have one last ribbon cutting ceremony, and I'd like to ask Jo Simmons to come forward and her family. And Jo donated the gazebo that you see here, and that was donated in memory of her husband, Kemper Simmons. So, Chris, can we give him some scissors? You can do it right from here. Yeah. Okay, why don't you go ahead and... Great. We have one last gifting, and I'd like ask Ed Malloy, the mayor of Fairfield, to step forward. Mike Petch, representing the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors, and Dennis Lewiston, representing the Jefferson County Conservation Board. And Ron Myers is going to do the honors here. We have some replicas of Barry Ross's original artwork, and we're giving those to be proudly hung in the City Hall and the Jefferson County Courthouse and at the Nature Center in Jefferson County Park.
Turn around so the candy can stay there.
So thanks everybody for coming, and we do have refreshments here for you. And be sure to go out and walk on the trail.
Well, I was on the art walk last night. Where it crosses about Haston, hasn't it?